Hi, I'm your host, Brad Riddle. This podcast is a shelf where I display all the useless sports knowledge I've picked up through the years, and I would love it if you'd subscribe. Go to grumpybuck.com, that's GRUMPYBUCK, like the deer.com, and you'll see Sports Wax Podcast in the menu. Go to the podcast page, enter your email, and you're on the list. It's that easy. And now, with Lincoln's birthday just behind us and Washington's birthday just ahead, here's an episode with a presidential theme. I hope you enjoy.
We're going into the last half of the fourth inning, fans, in this great ball game. First game of the World Series at Yankee Stadium. Here's Tommy Henrich, their right fielder, up. Tommy bounced into a force play the first time up. He's a left-handed.
There's nothing more American than sports. A trip to the ballpark is a slice of life. A hot dog, a bucket of popcorn, a soda or cold beer. Sports are a reprieve from the grind of everyday life.
Here's the next pitch, and Henrich hits a pop-up in the infield.
This is Game 1 of the 1941 World Series at Yankee Stadium. Joe DiMaggio's in the lineup for the Yankees. He hit in a record 56 straight games during the season. Pee Wee Reese is in the lineup for the Dodgers, who haven't been to a World Series in 21 years. The Yankees are about to beat the Dodgers for yet another World Championship. But there's something more important lurking on the horizon.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
The United States enters World War II just a couple of months after that World Series. Major League Baseball carries on, but things aren't really the same. More than 90% of active players from the 1941 season serve in the armed forces. Joe DiMaggio and Pee Wee Reese miss all of 1943, 1944, and 1945. When the war finally ends almost 4 years later, the President of the United States looks for a way to show the American people that things are back to normal, that it's okay to move on. Where does he go? To a baseball game.
For the first time since the beginning of the war, the President of the United States goes to a baseball game.
Truman must have loved baseball. He went to more Major League games than any other president, 16 in total. This is him tossing out the first pitch for the Washington Senators in 1949.
President Truman genially poses for the home team's camera bugs before demonstrating his skill as a switch pitcher.
And that's what this episode is all about. The presidents over the last 100 plus years who embraced sports. Our presidents have embraced sports as a way to connect with the American people, as a way to celebrate everyday life in the United States, and as a way to get things back to normal after crises. This episode is also about how sports play a unique role as comforter in times of nationwide pain. This is Sports Wax, a weekly documentary where we explore sports stories from yesteryear, memories of players, coaches, and games that take us back in time. Welcome to Episode 3, Commanders-in-Chief in the Crowd, 5 moments when presidents went to the ballgame.
Naval Academy midshipmen take the field in Philadelphia for the traditional pre-game ceremonies at the 62nd Army-Navy Football Classic.
This is number 1, Kennedy's coin flip. It's December 2nd, 1961, and John F. Kennedy's at the Army-Navy football game in Philadelphia. Navy has a young quarterback named Roger Staubach. A crowd of 101,000 packs Philadelphia Municipal Stadium. Kennedy, a Navy veteran, flips the coin before the game.
President Kennedy attends and does the coin flipping honors for the team captains. Joining the fans, he sits with the Army in the first half.
And Navy wins, 13-7. Just 2 years later, the Army-Navy game takes on a completely different tenor.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
as they're warming up here for today's game, which has been delayed by 1 week. Delayed, of course, for the reason that President Kennedy was slain a little more than a week ago.
After Kennedy's assassination, there was a debate about whether to play upcoming football games, both college and professional. At Jackie Kennedy's request, the Army-Navy game moves forward. Roger Staubach is now a star for Navy. In fact, he was going to be on the cover of the November 29th issue of Life magazine, but the slain president replaced him.
And it's a touchdown, Pat Donnelly.
Navy goes on to win 21-15. Staubach is later awarded the Heisman Trophy, and Navy finishes number 2 in the nation.
College football celebrates its centennial year on ABC, the #1 network for sports.
This is number 2. Nixon names the national champion. It's December 6th, 1969, and this is one of the first great spectacles in college football's television age. #1 Texas is playing at #2 Arkansas. Both teams are undefeated. The winner will be named the national champion, and President Richard Nixon is coming.
Helicopters now beginning to make their arrival off to the right, to the far side of the end zone. This is one of the what they call the white tops, and there you see it. There will be 5 of them. It's scheduled that President Nixon will be in the second helicopter.
Marine 1 touches down just before kickoff, and the president takes his seat not in the press box and not in a luxury suite, but among the crowd sitting in the cold and the rain. And he watches a heck of a game. The Razorbacks are up 14-0 at halftime when Nixon steps into the press box for an interview on ABC with play-by-play announcer Chris Schenkel.
Well, Mr. President, Bud and I are so pleased that you came up into our office to pay us a visit at halftime. Well, Chris, it's a little warmer up here than it is down the stands. But I must say, I've never seen a football game where there's more excitement in the air than there is today. This whole state is just alive. I can feel it.
Nixon actually sounds like a knowledgeable fan. He sounds like one of us. He even makes a joke about losing.
You can learn a lot from losing as well as winning. I've had a little experience in that.
Keep in mind, Nixon lost the 1960 presidential election to Kennedy, and he also lost the 1962 race for governor of California. Ever the politician, he has something nice to say about both teams. Back to the action. In the fourth quarter, Texas rallies. Longhorn quarterback James Street scores on a 42-yard run. Texas makes the 2-point conversion. And then, trailing 14-8, Texas gets a miracle with less than 5 minutes left. Facing 4th and 2 from his own 43, James Street throws a deep ball down the left sideline, just over a defender and into the arms of tight end Randy Peschel. Here's what it sounded like on TV.
And going for broke to Randy Peschel, and Peschel catches the ball.
It's a 44-yard gainer to the Arkansas 13. 2 plays later, Texas punches it in to tie. The extra point gives the Longhorns a 15-14 lead. Arkansas's national title dreams end with a late interception. Nixon goes into a jubilant Texas locker room after the game, where he names the Longhorns national champions.
Presenting this plaque, I want to say first that the AP and the UPI will name Texas #1, as we know, after this game. And this is a great honor in the 100th year of football. I also want to say that having seen this game, what convinced me that Texas deserves that is the fact that you won a tough one. For a team to be behind 14-0 and then not to lose its cool and to go on to win, that proves you deserve to be #1, and that's what you are.
This is number 3, Bush and the Motor City Motorcade.
But you're right, Lindsey. That's the key right there. The comeback kid, Joe Montana, who accounted for over 2,000 yards passing and 10 touchdowns.
Well, before we get to the Motor City, Let's trace the legend of Joe Montana back to its beginnings on January 1st, 1979. It's 22 degrees in Dallas for the Cotton Bowl. Montana's Notre Dame versus the Houston Cougars. It's so cold that Joe Montana is showing signs of hypothermia at halftime.
Tim Cagle just came into that huddle. Tim Cagle is the quarterback. It's not Montana.
In the third quarter, Montana's still in the locker room eating chicken soup to warm himself up, and Notre Dame falls behind 34-12. But Montana returns to the field late in the game and leads the Fighting Irish to 23 unanswered points and a victory. Here's the game winner.
Montana going, and it's a touchdown. A touchdown taken at the corner. Unbelievable finish.
It's Montana's last college game. The San Francisco 49ers draft him in the third round, and within 3 years, he leads his new team to its first ever Super Bowl.
They're in those locker rooms now, and the locker rooms tend to start to...
It's now January 24th, 1982. The 49ers are playing the Cincinnati Bengals in the big game. Pat Summerall and John Madden are on the call for CBS. The Super Bowl is taking place in the warm, cozy confines of the Pontiac Silverdome near Detroit. But it's 16 degrees and icy outside. The weather's an issue for anyone trying to get to the game, but there's an even bigger problem. The motorcade of Vice President George H.W. Bush is causing a huge traffic jam. The 49ers bus even gets stuck in it. The team sits unmoving for 40 minutes. They're only about a half mile from the stadium and they consider walking, but remember, it's 16 degrees outside with ice on the ground. The 49ers arrive just 90 minutes before kickoff, but it doesn't slow them down.
To Cooper, and Cooper scores for San Francisco from Montana. Big Earl Cooper.
With George H.W. Bush now watching from a suite, the 49ers take a 20-0 halftime lead. Joe Montana ultimately wins MVP honors in his first Super Bowl victory.
This feeling in the world, that's what it's all about. You know, for this team, for this coach, for this owner, for this town, they'll never forget this day.
Some fans missed the end of the game, though. Traumatized by the ordeal of getting into the stadium, they leave a few minutes early to beat the traffic.
Atlanta, this is Holloman. I don't know whether you're able to hear me now or not, but I'm going to continue to talk to you as long as I can. The skies of Baghdad have been just filled up with the sounds of gunfire here tonight.
This is number 4, Bush at the ballpark. Desert Storm, the first war in Iraq, didn't last long. This is the beginning. It's January 16th, 1991. CNN is reporting live from Baghdad. This was a really big deal at the time, but the whole war would be over by the end of February. Now President George H.W. Bush pulls a Truman to celebrate the end of the war. He goes to the ballpark.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, with an extra special ceremonial first pitch, former first baseman and captain of the Yale University baseball team, a real Texas hero, the President of the United States.
This is April 8th, 1991, Arlington, Texas. The Texas Rangers are hosting the Milwaukee Brewers for opening day. Why would Bush choose to visit the opener of the lowly Texas Rangers? Well, his son is an owner and the team's managing partner. Bush and his son sit for an interview with ESPN before the game. The president throws out the first pitch, and then Nolan Ryan takes the mound.
Got him, and there's Ryan's first strikeout of the season.
The Rangers lose 5-4, but the result isn't really the headline. The war's over, and it's baseball time again in America. What could be better? This is number 5. Bush brings the nation together. It's October 30th, 2001, Game 3 of the World Series. The Arizona Diamondbacks are playing the New York Yankees. After 2 games in Phoenix, this is the first one in New York. You probably remember that post 9/11 feeling. the disorientation, the sense of disruption, the anger, and the sadness. We all kept going to work and to school, but there was this lingering question of what's next? President George W. Bush went to Game 3 in New York, I think, in part to answer that question. The World Series is next, and we all just need to keep going. After the national anthem and a flyover, Bush trots out to throw the first pitch. It came out later that Derek Jeter challenged the president to throw from the actual mound rather than in front of it. President Bush even practiced in a batting cage under the stadium. Atop the mound, he gives the roaring crowd a thumbs up, and when the moment comes, he throws a perfect strike.
First pitch. And please welcome the President of the United States.
That year's World Series, fittingly, was an all-time classic, ending on a walk-off single in Game 7.
Floater, center field, the Diamondbacks are world champions!
And life kept moving forward. There's this baseball movie that I love. You've probably seen it. It's called Field of Dreams. Near the end, James Earl Jones' character, Terrence Mann, gives this speech that's become famous. The one constant through all the years, he says, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, it's a part of our past. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. And I think that's true. I think that it applies to baseball and to all sports. And I think it's why our presidents choose time and time again to go to ball games. Sports Wax is a documentary series brought to you by GrumpyBuck.com. That's GrumpyBuck.com. Subscribe to get new episodes that share a sports memory with a heavy dose of nostalgia each week.